Hello all, welcome back to Learning Partner. If you are new, please do subscribe. This is another channel where you can directly connect with me. We have around 1,000 plus members already who are working. We take live coding sessions and everything. To just get notified about those sessions, please do join this group. Fine. So the project idea. So this is again a well-known example of a live project idea. Myself, I have worked on two different kind of applications similar to what we are going to discuss. Obviously, client were different, but again, the business idea was quite similar to what we are going to see. So RFQ. So when we say RFQ, it's a very short form for request for quotation. So when we talk about domain in the software industry, we say e-commerce application, medical application, right? Banking, insurance, logistic. So many different domains are there. Means domain means just a group where we can see like this. Let's say if we create a website application, so it which sells the product, so it will go to the e-commerce domain. So just like that, we have some major domains. Fine. Again, ticketing is also one of the domain. Just like that, RFQ process creation means quotation creation, then bidding. This is also a domain. So I'm not sure like you might have faced or you might have heard it or not, but this is also a domain. So where we can create a quotation, that quotation will be available to all the other. They can see that quotation, they can put bids on that. Then the creator of the quotation can see what are the bids received and then he can decide. Fine. So a basic idea is we are trying to create a marketplace, a place where, let's say we talk about customer and the vendor. So customer as in, let's say I'm the customer, I want to uh, create something, or let's say I have a requirement. Either it can be just to build my house, or I want to manufacture some product. Let's say I want to manufacture a bottle and I want to give that bottle to my employees also. It can be anything, just something requirement I have. So a marketplace where customer can create a quotation for his requirement, right? Then that quotation get displayed on the portal where different vendor can see those quotation and can apply bid on that quotation, right? And what are the quotation you have received that you will be able to see, and means when that vendor will apply bid, he will specify like what by what duration and by what cost he can complete that requirement. So if we take an example, let's say an IT company is there, an IT company CEO is there. He wants to give, on let's say he on some occasion he wants to distribute bottles with his name, with his company name on that bottle. So he will create an RFQ. That RFQ will get displayed on our website. Then the companies which manufacturer bottle, they will apply bids on that quotation. So when an CEO will create a quotation, he will specify also like how many quantities he need, let's say 1,000, 2,000, whatever, and by what date he needs. So basic detail he will specify. Then other manufacturer who can provide that particular amount of bottles created within that particular time span, they will apply for the bids with cost, whatever the cost they think, and duration by what they can deliver, right? Then multiple companies, manufacturer companies will provide the bids to the RFQ, means created quotation. Then that CEO will again log in and he will see like 5 to 6 companies have provided the bids for this quotation. Then he will check company history, he will check, and then he will make a contract with that particular company. This is the main cycle. Okay, so this is very well known, or you might have already heard it also somewhere, a kind of application you might have used it also. So we are going to see like how it actually works. Again, the basic flow only, right? In actual application, there might be so many different flows, so many what do we say, roles, and so many things might be there. But whatever the different products we have currently also, right? Alibaba has the major product. Again, so many product based companies are there which has this kind of product, and they just have this product and they are doing very well also by just creating a product like this. Fine, they have, obviously they might have been proper customers and everything, but it's a big domain. Fine. Now what if we created a product, so everyone is understood like what is product. So we create an application, which application can everyone use. They can log in with their role and they will be using it. So we are thinking to create a product where customer also can use this product and other vendors. We will say vendor as in sometimes it can be a manufacturer, sometimes it can be a building contractor, anything, because quotation can be of any type, correct? I want to create a bottle. I'm creating a quotation. Let's say I want to build my office also. For that also, I will create the quotation. But if I'm creating a quotation for building, then only real estate builder will apply build to that. So I don't want to restrict this application so that only particular domain or particular people will be using it. I want this portal to be generalized so that everyone for their requirement they can create a quotation. Again, we will have categories and everything so that respective people will only will be able to filter it out, right? So normally what where these applications are normally used. So majorly this kind of applications are getting used in the government contract, right? So whenever let's say government has to do some work, correct? So first they have to create a contract, they have to release that contract somewhere. They use newspaper and everything. They have the applications also now. I don't know about applications where they do it, but they have to put it into newspaper also. They have the applications for currently in India. For every department, there are different applications to manage this. Let's say road and department might have it, medical department might have separate application, correct? So every department will have this kind of application. So they will create a quotation for whatever the need they have. And there are some supplier or the people they normally work on the government contract, they will apply there and they will get the contract and work get done. Again, real estate buildings also in this era also we can use this structure, fabrication work, medical equipment, and there are so many industries where we can use this application. Fine. Now, so again, as I told you, like we are not going to limit, we are not going to, we cannot go into very deep. So just to limit and within that limits also, we should be able to complete the whole flow. So I'm just restricting it to some module. So roles will be vendor and the customer. So customer will be the one who will be creating the quotation and vendor will be the one from whoever wants to apply bid to that quotation. Sometimes it can be a real estate builder, sometimes it can be a contractor, manufacturer, anything it can be. Fine. And as it's a product, so obviously product will have a super admin also. Means we are the people who are the creator of this application, we will be a super admin. So one, this will be a login for the super admin. This is only one user is there for this login. So this, if you have to log in as an admin, this is the username and this is the password you have to use. Vendor and the customer, you will be, whenever registering, you will be providing the username and the password. Module. So obviously it's a website, again, it's a website application, not an admin application, because without login also, I should be able to filter and see what are the quotations available, right? So I don't want to restrict. So that's why website structure we are deciding. So we will have a basic standing. This is the UI already created. Something like this UI we can have. Just whenever we say about the product should have a website, right? That will explain like what this product is about, what's the process, how this work, just like that. So just I created a normal HTML page for this. Then what do we have? Create user. So we have two different types of role, vendor and the customer. So we have that process, registration process. Then let's say customer registered and logged in. Then he will create the RFQ. So RFQ creation will be there. Then that created RFQ will be displayed in the website. Let's say a supplier sees or what do we say, a manufacturer sees some quotation that he works, right? So he will log in again. Vendor has to also log in, then he can see the quotation. Then he will check like if he is able to provide that particular requirement within that particular time with the cost, right? Then he will provide the bids on that quotation. That is the quote process. Sometimes, see, for every domain they have a related specific common words. So as I said, RFQ, request for quotation, quotes, we know, we understand bids, but in actual term it is called as quotes. Then uh, that vendor will provide the quotes. Just like that, in when customer login, he can see all the quotes received by all the vendor. So there should be a way by which he can compare. Whenever you purchase any product from any Amazon or Flipkart, you add it and you can compare it. Let's say if you want to purchase a mobile, like what's the RAM, what's the camera, what's the processor, like that. So we get a proper UI structure where we can compare properly with the attributes. So just like that, whatever the different vendors have provided the codes like cost, duration, their experience, right, material they might be using, whatever the details they specify, we have to show that in a proper representation way that customer can easily see like who he has to go with, right? And then finally he will create a contract. Whatever the quotes he has received from that, any one vendor, he will award the contract. Fine. So this is just a project explanation. API will be hosted on project api.jirasim. Let me show you the API. So in over here, you can see RFQ tracker. In this, you can see all the APIs are over here. Okay. By looking at it, it's very small API, but the way we are going to use it in all the pages, then it will be a huge thing. Fine. So again, UI is already there in that YouTube project template. The folder is RFQ. Okay, it is already pushed also. So let me just show you the UI. So as I've shown you, this is, let's say, a landing page will be there. From register, we will have the registration page. Then, so this is the create RFQ page. From customer login, he will be creating an RFQ. Again, I said, this is just a normal prototype kind of thing we are doing, POC kind of thing. But in actual RFQ, it will be around 20 to 30 fields minimum. Whenever we talk about an RFQ, it will have minimum 20 to 30 fields. Again, it's not a single. Some things can be multiple also. Again, very vast it is. Fine. But just to create a POC, this is also enough. Let's say whatever the title, part name I need to create, part name, or if something unique name I need to give, then what I need to deliver, quantity, how much I need, dimension, something extra, by when I need it, and some description. So he will, by this information, we will be able to create the RFQ. And in the card format, we will be showing like this. Then RFQ detail page. If vendor login, he can see the RFQ like that. And on click of send quote, again, we will open the model pop-up and there we will provide the costing and everything. Then quotes will be sent, bidding process. And this UI we can design, this UI we can use it on the website to show like available RFQs. We can filter it also by part name, manufacturer, status, open, close, something like that. Fine. Again, APIs are, I have just created the API, but API basic testing I have done. So if anything breaks, again, we have to fix it. Fine. So let's start. Just a minute. So to create the new project, ng new, whatever the project name you want to give. So I have just given the project name as Quotation Tracker Angular 19. So my basic project is created. Once the basic project is created, after that I have installed Bootstrap by using this command npm bootstrap and the font awesome. So once this installation is done in package.json, you will have this entry already added. Okay, it will automatically add it. So means Bootstrap you have installed. After that in angular.json, you need to enable the links also to get Bootstrap and Foundation to be get used all over the project. You need to allow it. So that's why in style section, you need to add the links of that node module folder, because once you install it in node module, you will have that Bootstrap and Foundation folder. So you need to provide the link like this. This is the initial thing I have done. Fine. In app folder, we just have an app component. So let's run it. Again, to get the API access, my APIs are restricted with 4209. So make sure you run the project on that particular port. So ng serve -- port 4209, enter. Now, so obviously, whenever we start a new project, first thing we have to decide the component, how many components we are going to need. So as I said, this is going to be a website application, not an admin application website. So we don't need that extra component where we put that navbar and second parent component we create. It's just a normal component, right? So first login component we will need. So let's create a new folder, pages. So in pages folder, we will create our components. Let's open a terminal. Ng generate component. You can write the full form or short form also. So now see, login and the registration part is there. So if you see the register API, we just have a small form. And in login also again small form. So either you can create one component for the login and one component for the registration, or you can do the both thing in a single place. And you will have some unique UI to toggle the login and the registration form. That also you can do. Fine. So let's go that way. So we will only create one component where we can handle login and the registration. So let's say registration. So this is the first component. In app component, our navbar will be in the app component. Okay. So this is the first component where we will have login and the registration both forms. We will just toggle based on the click of it. Then uh, create RFQ, the first component where we will have the form. So ng generate component create RFQ, enter. So this is the component where we are going to create the RFQ. This will be used in the customer login. So once customer create the RFQ, he should be able to see it also. So ng generate customer RFQ list, or yeah, RFQ list component. So this component will be used in the customer login where we have to show the RFQs created by him, right? So RFQ list. Then in website, now let's say customer has created the RFQ, that RFQ is visible in the customer login also. Now it's a website. So whatever the RFQ created by all the customer, we have to showcase into the website also, right? Where is the website? Over here, we will show some RFQs, or over here again, we can have RFQ link is there. If we click on it, we will have a different page where we can show all RFQs. This page I'm talking about. So here, this is a website without login and everything. Here we have to showcase RFQs created by all the customer. Okay. So for this also, we will need one more component. So let's say ng generate component RFQs. Okay, just a name I'm giving RFQs. So this component we are going to use to showcase the all RFQs in the website part. Fine. Then fine. So this is just to start the project. These are the components sufficient for now. Now, so I'm going to use, where is the navbar? This navbar I'm going to use. So it has some icon and this login and the registration buttons are also there. So this is RFQ HTML page. So RFQ HTML page. Let's get the navbar. So we are going to put our navbar into our app component. Fine. You can create one more component also to just put your navbar and again that render that component into app component. But basically it's going to be the same thing. So we can use app component only. So this is my navbar. Let's copy. So in app component, let's remove the existing code, whatever we get. We might need the CSS also. Let's copy this CSS, put it into our app component.css. Now in app component, this is considered, what do we say? This is considered as an HTML page. So we have a body tag over here, but in Angular component, we don't have a body tag. So here I will rename this as a parent class, and this I will put over here, or we can do this body class we will remove and put it into our global style, because outside HTML file it should be added. So let's just save and let's check. 4209. Fine. So you can see navbar is coming, but icons are not coming. Let me see why icons are not coming. I might have used font awesome 6.42. Okay. So this is the latest version of font awesome, and I have installed, I think, the older one. So for now, what I will do, I will just copy this CDN link, and in my Angular project in index.html, I will put it. Fine. Because I'm using a reusable folder node module. I don't create node module in every project. Fine. So that's why I'm not again installing it. So you can see the navbar is over here. Now we have created components. So next thing after creating component will be we have to create the routes. Fine. Let's close it. And again, it's a website. So we need one component, the landing page, right? So this is our landing page. So we need one more component where we can have this UI. So by default, this page will load. So for that, we will create one more component. We will call it as a landing. or in the app component also we can have it, but app component should not just router outlet and the navbar, that is sufficient. Fine. So in landing page, so we have created this component. Now we have to create the route. So it's an Angular 19 that is with standalone. So we get app route.ts. Previously it was a module file, but now it's a constant file. Fine. So over here we have to create the routes. So by default, when application loads, some component need to be loaded by default. So we have to create our default route. So path will be empty, then redirect to. Where we have to redirect to? So let's say landing or home. We will call it as a home, where we will have the single page app website. Then path match strategy, full value we need to provide. So this is our default route. Then path colon empty, our home route, component, home landing component we have given. Fine. Now, when we create the route, we can provide the title also. So this title thing we have got from Angular 16 or 15. I forgot now. Angular 15 or 16 we have got title. So before that we used to use title service to set the title. Fine. Then path. Then let's say registration component, register component, path. After that, create RFQ, -RFQ, component, create RFQ. What's the create RFQ component? Okay, again, components are there, but first we need to complete this login and the registration process. So this is enough for now. So let's close it. And by default, we should be able to see the home component. So see, landing work is coming, means by default it is navigating to the home component. Home is nothing but our landing component. So that is coming over here. So in landing component, we need this UI. So this is index.html. So let's copy this index.html. After navbar, let's copy this. Over here, then CSS also needed for this particular page. Some extra CSS might be there. Bar we don't need. Let's copy. Save all. Let's check if we are able to see the same page. Yeah. So here you can see that page is coming over here. We didn't add that footer. Okay, so I didn't create the footer. Anyway, fine. So by default, it is navigating to our home page. Now, first thing we have to complete is the registration process. So as I said, we are going to have a single page, and in that single page, we are going to have the registration and the login also. Again, we will toggle. So for that, we need the UI. Now, either you can just Google that login page HTML by using CodePen, or you can use ChatGPT also if you need a very basic one. Okay, so let's open it. Let's try to see. We need a page where we will have registration and both the thing. Let's see if it is has that. It's not loading. Okay. No, it doesn't have that. Next. Let's try this. Sign in. Okay, this also doesn't have it. I need a UI proper, that's why I'm wasting a little bit time over here. Okay, so see, this is what I was talking about. So in a single page, we can have a UI for login also, and in login form, we can have a button so that this will also work. Fine. So let's copy the HTML code. So we will copy it from inside the body, whatever the content we have, let's copy. We have to put this code into our registration page. And we need the CSS also. So let's get all the CSS. We have it over here. Copy. CSS will go into CSS file. It's not copied over. Copy. Paste. Fine. Again, in the component, we don't have body, right? So what we can do, we can, instead of body, we will create a parent class, and inside HTML, a wrapper around all the UI, we will create one parent div, div with the parent class. And we will move this over here. Let's save all. But we didn't created the routing, right? So let's create the routing created, but we didn't add it in the navbar. So where we have it over here. So now this is the registration or the login. So on both of the click, we need to log into the same page because we don't have different page. Fine. So instead of href, we have to use router link. So from standalone component means from 17, whatever things you are going to use, you need to import it. Either you are using router link, ng model, anything, whatever you are going to use, you need to import it. So we are going to use router link. So you need to import router link. Then only we can use it. Otherwise, it won't show any error or code will, it won't work also. Fine. So router link, where we have to navigate. What's the route name we have given? Register. And over login also, I'm going to do the same thing. Let's just save and check if we are able to navigate. If I click on register, why it is coming in the center? We missed some CSS or what? Let's check quickly. What was it? Okay. This was again the class. Okay, so now you can see page is coming at the center properly. Now, if you see the example, there it was properly happening, right? Where it was. Right? On click of login, it was properly happening and some animation was also there. So this was happening because of the JavaScript code. So now this happens multiple times. When we work on an actual project, now sometimes what it happens, client will provide you a template also. They will purchase a template, UI template, and that template you might get it in the JavaScript also with some functionality, whatever, just like we are saying, right? So we might get that functionality in JavaScript. So whatever the JavaScript code you see it over here, this code we need to convert it into Angular also. So if we see what is written, so they have just taken the reference of the elements, buttons, and on click of button, we are see toggle. So login form, active class, and sign up form. We might be having two divs. So we just have to toggle the class, right? And style also we are adding. So style, I'm not sure we will be able to do it or not, but let's see. Because this is that thing, what is happening, that animation, because of this, it is happening the animation. But at least hide and show we can do for now. Fine. So if you see the UI, so let's see. In the HTML, we might have some two different form. So this is the first form and this is the second form. So this is the class. So whatever the form you want to show, you have to add that active class over there. So we need to add a dynamic class. So from old Angular, you know how do we add a dynamic class? So by using ng class. But if we have to use ng class, we have to import it also, correct? Then only you can use ng class. But if you don't want to, again, add unnecessary code into your component.ts, so you can use property binding also to add a dynamic class. So let's use that. Now, how do we know like which form we have to show and which form not? So obviously we are going to need somewhere like what's the current activated form. So we need to store that value. So for that, you can create a normal variable. Instead of creating normal variable, you can create a signal also. Why signal? So because from now on, in next version, we are supposed to get a form which is based with signal. Now also we can create a form with signal, but that custom code we need to write. But Angular team is working on creating a form which is actually just like template and reactive form is there. Na? Signal based form is also coming. Why signal is so important? Because they are going to remove zone.js, the dependency or the library which is making Angular little bit slow. They want to get rid of that. And without zone.js, if you want to render, if your UI should behave as it is, you have to work with Signal only. So Signal is very important from now on. Everyone who is learning, who are already working, make sure you are compatible with Signal. Don't fear it. It's just a normal thing. Same concept is in React also. If you understand this over here, you will be able to work with React also very properly, because same similar type of thing in React also. There we call it as a state. Here it is Signal. Fine. Now, so we have to create a signal. Let's say is login form visible. Just a variable name I'm giving is equal to signal. What type of data I'm going to store into this variable? Signal. But still data type also we can provide Boolean type of data. By default, we can provide some value. See, what's the initial value? We can initialize with false. So by default, the signal will have a value false. Now, spelling mistake is SIABLE. Okay, so we have created this variable. Now, over here, we said property binding. So property binding will be square bracket class equal to. So if this signal, how do we access a signal? As a method, not as a property. So if this signal has a true value, means this is a login form, no? Yeah, login form. So if this signal has a true value, we need to add this classes over here. Else, if the signal value is false, we need this classes, but without that active class. Now we will remove this. Fine. So if this signal has a value, true value, this set of classes will be added. Otherwise, this. Similar to this, we need to copy. Let's write it again. Square bracket ng class. Sorry. Equal to, again, signal value. Now we have to compare with false. So if it is false, means signal login form is not, we have to show. So what we are going to do, this or this. So this will be over here with active, and remaining will be over here. We can remove this static thing. Let's just save it and check it. So by default, currently, I think we have false value, no? Nothing is coming. Do we make some mistake? Let's make it true. Login is coming. Why vice versa it is not working? Why it is bank? Let's check our HTML. So we said if this variable, if this signal is true, we will have active class over here. So this form will be active, otherwise this. Okay. And if it is false, we will have active class over here, and we are removing it. Why it is not working then? Let's check. So both the forms are visible. Here we have it active, but it's not loading. Why it's not loading? Do we need it at the end or what? I no. Form login, form sign up. Let's check the live example how it was working. This is the sign up, right? Let's inspect. Form sign up active. Same set of classes. We have it over here also. How come it is not working? And over here we have login and login form. Over here also we have the login form. Opacity 1, transform, nothing is there. Why it is not? Anyone getting what we are doing wrong? Why this form is not visible? It is going over here or what? So this is empty. Wait, some parent div also needed or what? Just pay attention to this div. If I click on login, here active class is getting added. If I click on sign up, here active class is getting added. Classes are same only, no? Form login form active, form sign up form. Why this sign up is not available? Anything else is changing? Let's try. Okay, so because of this, style -50, let's try. On font wrapper or form content, where it was there, form content, sorry. Let's try it. Okay. So see, this style is also required. Because of this property, then it will be visible. Fine. So this dynamic style also we need to add. So see now, just observe this div. Okay. If I click on login, what's the value this particular div has? Translate 0%. And if I click on sign up, it has the value translate x -50%. So style also we need to add it dynamic. So let's try it now. So this is the style we need to make it dynamic. Fine. So see, these are the issues you are also going to face. I'm also facing. How do we resolve or how do we fix? You get an example. Fine. So now we need to add a dynamic style. So let's try by using interpolation first. Transform. Now over here, this is the value we have to change, right? By default 0% for login and -50% for sign up. Let's try. So again, so if this signal has a false value, let's try to use interpolation over here. I'm not sure if this will work or not, but let's try. So if this signal value has false, then question mark this, otherwise this. It's giving error because it is already in round bracket. Too confused between this round bracket or what? We are doing it wrong over here. This is there. And this style we have to use. I need to make, okay, instead of just providing that value dynamic, let's try it over here. Or let's first try this. So if this is false, this value, otherwise this value. It is not allowing us to let use. Okay, let's go with ng style. Fine. So ng style we have to use. So we have to import it. Just like ng class also, if we have to use, we have to import that. So just like ng style. Fine. Now, here instead of this static, we can use our directive, that is ng style. So whenever we have to use ng style, we have to provide the values in the curly bracket as an object format, key value pair data. So our key will be transform, then value. So now value will be dynamic. So value will be this. So if, let's remove this now. Okay, so if the signal value is true or if it is false, so we have to add that -50% something now, -50% value. No. We are making mistake. This whole thing we need to do now. Transform over here like this, over here 0%. Let's try now. So we are providing a dynamic value to this transform function. If this signal value has false, so we are adding translate with -50, otherwise translate 0%. Let's try now. No, still it's not coming. What's the console error? Nothing is there. What's the default value? Let's make it true. So login form is coming. Let's try to see that if it is having the dynamic class added or not. So over here, by default, we have translate X 0%. Okay. Now if I click on sign up, oh, so we didn't do that dynamic thing. Let's quickly change it also. So change our toggle form. We just have to change the signal value. So this dot login form dot set, we just need to do the vice versa, not of this dot signal value. If it is true, false will be getting stored. Now this function we need to call in both the form just to toggle it. So over here, click our function, and in the other form also we need it. Let's save it. Let's try it now. So by default login is available. So by default translate X 0% is there. If I click on sign up, why it is not changing? We have written the correct code now. Transform. If this is there, we are providing translate X 50%. Else this value. Let's try again. Okay, so that semicolon was there. So only mistake was semicolon was there. That's because it was not happening. So see, same thing, whatever it was there. So we have to, whatever the JavaScript they have written, same thing, because just because of that animation, that translate property might be used. Fine. So see, now we are able to do the toggle thing. So now you might have the idea how do we debug and how do we fix it. Okay. Now, so our login form is there, registration form is there, that toggle thing is also happening properly. Now we have to integrate the API. So register API. So if I show you the API for this, where is, okay. So see, in the API code, I have written the logic like you can only pass a role as vendor and the customer. If you pass anything apart from vendor and the customer, you will get the error because that is the if statement I have added. You will get like roles allowed only. Okay, here I didn't change it. Okay, I will deploy it again. Okay, fine. So we just need to pass roles, that is vendor and the customer. Okay, then only it will register. Fine. Now, so this API call we are going to make. So what's the object? This is the object what we need to send. So in login registration form, we are going to use template form. Then in the next component, we will select reactive form as well. So this is the object we need to use. So as I said, whenever we are working on a project or even you are preparing for interview and when you got the machine test, always make sure you create class as an interface. Don't use any. That just very bad impression you are trying to create if you are going to use any. Because see, everyone knows when we work with Angular, we normally use TypeScript. But when we appear for the interview, no one normally 70 or 80% companies won't ask you TypeScript question because they also know like from TypeScript, we use limited things only. We don't use everything, whatever we have in TypeScript in while working in Angular. But whatever you use, that you should know, right? So we have to create a class of this. So first, I'm creating the classes and everything. Then we will start with the API integration. So in app folder, I will create model folder. In model folder, I will just create a class that is user.ts. It's a normal TypeScript file. Inside that, again, I will create a export class. This name can be anything. Inside that, you are going to create multiple classes. Register. Okay. These are the field we are going to need. Let's remove it. Fine. Now this will be replaced with colon number. And this I have to replace with colon string. Fine. Let's replace this with over here. So quickly we can replace everything. Why it has not replaced over here? Fine. So we have created a class with what are the properties we need to send. So it's a class. So we have to initialize all these properties. Why constructor or why we don't initialize over here? It has a proper reason. This was an intro question. One of you, I don't know, like that person joined or not, but he reached out to me saying why when we create a class which we use to bind in our component, why cannot we initialize properties like this? The reason is you should initialize the properties into constructor, because when you are going to use the reference of this model into your component, you are going to use new operator, so that when you initialize that variable you create into a component by using new operator, your constructor get called and your properties get initialized. So that's why we are not supposed to initialize properties over here like this. You have to initialize over here. Email ID with empty, this dot, full name again empty, password again empty, role empty, user ID, we have user ID is our primary key, so by default we will initialize with 0. What's the last thing? Username is equal to empty. Fine. So we have created class, and in constructor, what are the properties we created? We have initialized with the default values also. Now, again, to make the API call, we need the service also. So let's create a service also. In app folder, I will be creating a folder services. Now in service, I need to create a new service. So let's open a terminal. Ng generate service. Let's say I'm just going to give it as user. So again, one intro question might be there. How many service we can create? So you can create a single service also, and in that single service, you can write all the subject, behavior, subject, observable, API call function, utility function, everything you can put it in a single service also. But again, you are making that code little bit difficult to read, process, and everything, right? So you can divide your services, like you will create a utility service, API call for module, let's say RFQ module, user service might be there, RFQ service might be there, right? So based on the different module, you will be creating different services, and respective function you will be writing it over here. For creating subject and behavior subject that you are going to use in across all the application, you can create a different service which only responsible to hold the observables. Fine. So this is the answer you have to specify. Okay, not just you can say no, we can create multiple service. You have to elaborate it also, because everyone is going to answer that what you are up extra you are doing, right? So you need to properly elaborate also, like what different services, what you can put it over there. This is the answer everyone is expecting. If you answer this, he will be happy, like he will understood that yeah, you might have implemented this in your project or while learning also. So he will get that knowledge. So the person who is talking, he has a proper experience. It's not like he has just learned and got a fake experience and he's giving interview, right? So these are the small things which aparts you from the other candidate. Fine. Now, so we have created our service. Now in this service, we have to write the API call function. So from standalone component, from Angular 17, previously we used to have app module. So in app module, we used to add HTTP client module, but it's a standalone. So we got app config. So in app config, in provider service, we need to inject our provide HTTP client dependency injection. PRO provide HTTP client. Fine. So this is the first thing you need to do. After that, here you can import your HTTP client. So private HTTP colon, the object will be HTTP client. I'm using constructor because in service they have not yet removed it. In Angular 15, sorry, Angular up to Angular 14, in every component we used to get constructor and ng on it by default created, but now they are not doing it, right? But in constructor they have still kept it. So that's why for creating object I'm using this. But in component we don't have got, but we don't get the constructors. We can use inject. Okay. Now, so on register, first API call function, return, we are going to return whatever the data we get, this dot http dot post API call. Post API call always has a two function, URL and the object. So object we are going to get from the component, because this function we are going to call from the component object. Here also you can add the data type. What type of data you are going to get? This model. So this class, you can provide it over here. Let's load the import. So URL. So let's get the URL first. Let me click on try it out, execute. This is my URL. So let's copy, paste it. So this is my URL, and object also we need to pass. So whatever the object we get as a parameter, that we will pass it over here. This is very basic API call function. Okay. Now, so if you see the response, what type of response you are going to get? An object where we have message, result, and the data. So let's create interface of it. Now, for user, for register object, I have created class. Now I'm going to create an interface. So export interface I API response. Okay. Whenever you are creating an interface, it's not mandatory, but it's a good programming practice that whenever you are creating an interface, start with the I prefix. So if anyone is seeing that code of yours, so he can understand, like if wherever you are using this, he will understand like this is an interface. He don't have to go to definition and see what's the, is it interface or class. By checking the name, he will understand. Fine. So how many property we have? Message, result, and data. Let's create those. Message will have a data type string. Result will have data type Boolean. Then data. Now data can be anything. Sometimes it can be array, sometimes it can be a single object. So I will go with any. So in your application, this is a single place where you should use any. Otherwise, you have to avoid it. Fine. When to use any? When you don't know what type of data you are going to get or you are going to store in that particular variable. There only you have to go with any. Fine. Now, so this is very basic API call function. Now, how do we advance it? So we know this API call, what type of data is going to return, right? This type of data it is going to return. So we have to specify the return type. So over here, a function return type, observable. We need to import it. So it will be from RxJS, observable. So if you see the return type of this function, but let me just remove it. If you see what type of data it is returning, observable by default, because we are returning. So if you see the post, what the return type of post? Observable. So observable type of data you are returning. So by default, this function is also observable type, but you need to specify it also, because what type of data, right? So that we created IAPI response. This type of data I'm going to return. So once you provide the return type over here, after post also you need to provide the return type IAPI response like this. This is your actual API call function, which is valid, and we can use this same thing in actual working live project also. Okay. Now, so we have created a service. In service, we have written our API call function also. Now we can start with the component. Pages registration. Whenever you are working, either you are working in a company or small, these are very small thing. Always use two window mode. So you don't have to click multiple times. You get everything properly visible. You just need to copy paste, right? Now, so as I said, I'm going to go with the template form. So if we have to use the template form means ng module, we have to import forms module. So over here, forms module, we will import. Again, we need to import. For the first time, it will ask us to import Angular / forms. And here we can import forms module. Have a habit of writing this import also, because you don't know, interviewer will ask you what to do. Sometimes they might ask you to just write the form import statement also. If you have not written any time, then you might get confused at that time. We are already in a compact zone when we are in the interview, and if someone asks you to write the import statement, and if you have not written any time, it is very easy. But when you start to write it, and if you have not written it, you might not think, right? So have a habit of writing the import also. uh, uh, Basic import like forms is coming from form, core like signal, component, input, output will come from the core, http angular dot common dot http or something is there. Just the common statement you can remember. Fine. Now this form module, I have added it over here. Now we have to create the instance of our object, right? So register obj data type. So instead of any, we have created our class. So that class name I'm providing it over here. Register. See, it is suggesting it is coming from model/user. Once I click it, import will be automatically added. Fine. Now here I will use this new operator. So what this will does, it will execute your constructor because you are creating an object of the class. So whenever object of the class is getting created, constructor get invoked automatically, right? So this definition you might have learned from your engineering or BCA, whatever the technical education we take, right? So same that we have to follow it over here. Fine. Now this object we have created, now this object we need to bind it. So this is our sign up form. Wait, what things we need it over here? Let's check it first. So username is already there, email, full name, password, role. Yeah, so role we need to send, right? Let's modify our so username, email, password. Two more things we will need. So this will be full name and role. Now see, now what you can do, you have to pass the role. In role also you need to pass two things, correct? So instead of passing two things, just a minute. What you can do for role, you can have a text box, but you just know like two things are there, either vendor or the customer. So you can create a drop down. But instead of that, just to make it form your interactive, you will create button. Okay. Let me show you how. So you will create two buttons. You might have seen these forms whenever you are working any product application. So I am customer, and one more button I will be needing. I am vendor. Okay. Let's save and check. First UI we will check. Okay. But why it is coming? Okay. Again, row column structure is there. Let's inside this, or I will just create row column structure. Call 6. First button I will move into the call 6. Call 6. I will add second button over here. Fine. So UI is looking proper now. So what we need to do, username, email, password, and full name. These are very straightforward field. Now, but now role will be taken once user click on over here. In that role property, you need to set vendor, or if you click, if customer clicks or over here, you need to set customer. So these are interactive thing, right? So as I said, either you could have gone with that normal drop down, or this is interactive. So many product application you might have seen or use gender also, image will be there, click on male and female like that, right? So just to make form interactive. Okay. And one more thing we will be needing, like on click of it, we need to make it active also, right? Currently if I clicked anywhere, I'm not able to understand which button I have clicked, so we need to add some extra class. So for that we need one more variable also, or we don't need that variable extra also. In the object only we will store. Fine. So we have created object. Now this object we need to bind it to our form also. Again, all the input elements are inside a form tag, so name attribute will also be mandatory. Fine. So now over here, square bracket, round bracket, ng model. Dot. So see, since we provided the data type properly, it is providing the IntelliSense, like what are the properties you have. So there is no way to make the spelling mistake again. Okay. So username, let me just copy paste quickly, or let's write that name tag also. And in name tag, we have to provide the same property name, whatever we added over here. Let's copy, paste, paste, paste. Now this is not an input element button, so we cannot add it over here. So username, then email, copy, paste. And this is for password. And this is full name. Okay. So we have respective text box, so we are going to get that. But over here, what we need to do? So on click of it, we will write the function set, sorry, click set role, and to this function we will pass customer over here, and same function we will call it over here, and we will pass vendor. Okay. Now we need to create this function. In this function, what we are going to do, whatever the parameter value we got, that we are going to store inside the object, role and string. So this dot register object dot role is equal to whatever the role you got it as a parameter. Fine. So once user click on the respective button, that role is going to set into your object. Fine. Now we need to add a dynamic class also, so that button is selected or not. User should be able to understand, like, yeah, I clicked on this button, so that it got selected. So for that, we will add a dynamic class. So let's wrap it up. So if register object dot role, this is for customer button, right? So customer, single quote we need to provide. If it is customer, then this, otherwise this. Okay, so this class, if it is customer, we will go with this, and if it is not, instead of primary, we will go with success. Okay, now this same thing I need to copy and put it in the other button also. And here, vendor. Okay, see now. Sign up. If I click, wait, why? Let's see. Class is getting added or not. Button primary, if I click on customer, no, it is getting added. Success. See, it is properly working. Classes are getting dynamic, but I think this color is not getting added. Where is the success? Success has also the same, from where it is coming. Okay, so button has that. Only button has that color. If we remove it, let's remove that color from. Where is that button? Let's remove this. Classes was getting added. Okay, so see. Okay, I'm able to toggle now. Wherever I'm clicking, that got wait, but I'm see something is breaking. If I click on I'm vendor, this is not getting selected. If I click over here, then vice versa happening. See, so what we have written here, if it is customer, we are adding primary, otherwise success. If it is vendor, primary or success, same thing, no? But why it's not working properly? Currently, this is selected. If I click on I am vendor, not happening. And if I click it over here, it is happening. How come? We call the same function, right? Customer, vendor. Did we make the spelling mistake? No. On click of it, we are changing the variable value also. Why it is behaving differently? Okay, so if again I clicked in over here, okay, anyone getting what we did wrong? Primary success, Customer. Okay, so see, on customer button, we are passing customer. No, but that is also correct. Ternary swap the class name. No, it's working properly, but what I was saying is, if you click on vendor, okay, now it is happening. Okay, let it be. It started working. Okay, so we have got our form ready. Now on click of login, sorry, on click of register, we just need, where is the register button? We removed it. Sign up button is there, no? It is not visible. Okay, it is there, but we removed that class. Okay. Now, let's add btn warning. Fine. Now on click of sign up, we need to integrate our API call. Okay. So let's start integrating that. So on click of submit, instead of submit, I'm going with button. Click on save or on register. Make sure your function names are also very proper. See, when you submit a machine test or when you someone asks you to share the screen and you write the code, they see everything what you write. Are you following any camel case or not? What's the variable name you are giving, function name you are making it descriptive or not? Everything they will follow. Okay. So make sure you are, while creating variable also, see login form visible, register object, toggle form, what functionality we are doing, like that function name, set role. So your function name or variable name should be that much descriptive. If anyone sees that code, he should be properly understood. Okay. Now this function. Now in this function, we have to write the API call function. So we have already created the service. So let's inject that service. So here we are going to use, okay, user service. Our user SRV is equal to inject method. We will use inject user service. Okay. Now over here, we need to write the API call. So this dot user service, currently we just have one function. That function need the parameter. So this dot register object dot subscribe round bracket result. What type of data we are going to get? API response type. So that's everywhere, wherever you should not use anywhere. Okay. Then result dot result. If result property is true, we will say registration success. And in else, we have to showcase whatever the error message we get from the API. So that is result dot message property. And once the registration is success, you need to reinitialize your form also. So we have created a class. So what you will do, this dot register object is equal to new your register class. So this is that's the benefit of creating constructor in your class. Fine. Let's add a debugger over here also. And in our service also. Okay, let's add it over here, and debugger, extra debugger, we will add it in the console. We don't have any error, no? No. Okay, let's try. So I'm just trying to register as a customer now. So Chetan, let's say Chetan. Okay, this is the username. So something unique name we have to give. Otherwise, you will get error from API side. 1133. Okay, this is username. This is email ID. Password, let's say 112233. Let me just put it into Notepad also so that we can use it to log in. 112233. This is customer user we have created. Full name Chetan. On click of I am customer. Now debugger is on click of sign up. Fine. Now, why debugging is important? You should understand where you need to add the debugger, how you should debug it, what you can do. So use your mouse properly. See what data you are getting, what you are passing. See in the role also we got it properly. User ID is 0. That's what we set it in the constructor. Now here you add the debugger. Let's say you want to debug your function also. So what you need to do, you need to hover over here, click over here, you will go over there and here you add the debugger. Now if I continue, see from component we got this object. Now from over here you are going to actually make the API call. Again, once you get the response, you need to debug it. So in self-subscribe, you will add the debugger. Continue. So if you check the result, why it is saying what we passed? Customer only, na? Why it is saying like this? I didn't deploy the API or what? We pass customer only, right? But why we got API from supplier manufacturer? Role, customer, C capital. And that's the same check I have added over here. CUSTOMER. Okay, so see over here I have added one space. So that's the error from my API side. Let me just redeploy the API quickly. I had that extra space added over there. That's why it got to the wait. Again, we need to change the response message also. Vendor and customer. These are the two roles allowed. Again, let's deploy, publish it. Let's remove the old build. This is how we deploy it onto the server. This is the new build. Open, all the files will be updated. Okay. Let's try to execute now. Again, if I click on sign up, continue, continue, it will take some time. So result, now you can see we got false, but different message saying username already exists. So whatever the username I pass, I think that username is already taken. So let's change it 113322. Let's try it now. Continue, continue. Okay, so see, now we got result property true. Means user got created successfully and it will go. Okay, here we make the spelling mistake. See, the spelling mistake we have done in interface. Let's correct it. So that's why it got to the else block. Result. That's why whenever you copy the data from API side, now check, always copy paste. There are chances we see like, yeah, it's a result only. So I made the mistake, right? So always copy paste with the property name and the field name. So user is registered successfully. Let me show you that on onto the Swagger. RFQ. So we registered as a customer, right? So get all customer, execute. See, we had created. Let's try to log in with this username. We have this login API. Username will be this. And what's the password? This is the password. Let's pass the wrong password. We should get an error in response saying wrong password. See? Okay. If we pass the correct password, we should get the proper response. Execute. See, we got the result true and we got the whole user object also. So after registration is success, we have to complete the login thing. Okay, let's do it. Fine. So just like we have created register object, we can create one more class for the login also. So let's copy, paste it over here, login. So what we need, just username and the password. Fine. Let's create another object. So just like this, I'm just going copy pasting now because this thing I have already explained. Login object, the data type will be login. Over here, So here we have the form. So let's bind our ng model with name attribute. Over here, over here. So we need to bind login object, username and password over here. Okay. Now in service also we need to create the API call function. So let's go to our service. Let's quickly write one more API call function. So just like on register, we will need one more API call function. Okay. On login. So if you see in both the function, here it will be login. Okay. But if you see this part is getting repeated again and again. See, because whenever we work on a particular project, almost API will be same, just our method name is going to change. So instead of repeating it, what we can do, ideally we should keep it in the environment file, but for now we will create a variable over here, API URL colon string is equal to this value. Okay. Now wherever we need that API URL, here you can bind this variable. So this dot API URL plus, now you don't need it. This is concatenation. Another way to do that by using template literal. So over here, dollar curly bracket, this dot API URL, then we just need the method. Let's remove this. Fine. So this is by using concatenation and this is by using template literal. So this looks very easy because we know, like while working in Angular, we normally don't use all the things we get it from JavaScript. Some of the concept we use, but try using object destructuring also use, template literal also you can use, so that while giving or while preparing, you don't have to prepare those topic. If you are using those topic daily while working in Angular, you don't have to prepare it. You will be more confident while answering that. Okay. Now here, instead of register, it will be login type of data I'm going to get. Now, so on click of login, instead of submit, click login. Let's create this function into our .ts. Now our API call function will be same as it is. So let me just copy this piece of code over here. Just function name will be login. Here we need to pass the login object. Login object. And whenever we do the login, you might have also seen when we log in, we should not show that alert box. Why we want user to click unnecessary? Because once user login, we normally navigate him to some another application, right? Now, so if user logged in, so if API call is success, we are getting the, if you check the response, if you pass the correct credential in the data, you get the whole object. Now this data you need to store on your Angular application. Either you use session storage, local storage, cookies, you put it in service, but somewhere you need to store it. Okay, right? So I will be using session storage to store the data. So once we get the data, that data we need to store. So session storage dot set item. Session storage can only store string type of data. What's the application? RFQ user, comma JSON dot stringify to convert the object format data into string. So result dot data. And once user is successfully logged in, again, we need to navigate back to our home page or somewhere. Fine. So for that, we will need router service object. So router inject router. Now over here, this dot router dot navigate by URL method you can use, or you can use the navigate method also. So if user logged in successfully, again, we will navigate back into the login page, home page. Okay. Again, based on the role, if it is a customer, you can move him to the MyRFQ page, or if it is vendor, you can navigate back into the home page based on the login. Again, role check, you need to add it over here. You like that, you will navigate. Fine. Let's just save and check if we are able to log in also now. So this is the username. username 113322 and password is 113322. Let's pass the wrong password first. So button, that class we need to add. That's why button is not visible. Button is over here. So you can see we pass the wrong password. So we get error from the API call. Okay. So see, result property is false and we got the error. Let's pass the correct password 112233. On click of login, user found is there, but why didn't we navigate it back? Somewhere error is there. Cannot find route with match home. We created route, right? With home. Okay, small case. So we added capital over here. Let's try it again. Username 112233. If I click on sign up, see, we have navigated back to the home page, and in the application you can see session storage. This is local session storage. You can see in RFQ user we got the data. So since user is logged in, now whenever either it is an admin application or a website kind of application, once in user login, these are all things we need to do. One more thing is like, if user is logged in, we don't need to show this username, and the logout button should be there, right? Now our navbar is inside our app component, correct? So what we can do, see over here also we might get one issue. Let me just implement first, then I will provide you the defect, what defect or what scenario might be breaking. So, okay, sorry. In app component, we have these buttons, right? So if user is logged in, instead of showing this button, we need to show the logged in user name and the logout button. So that UI is already over here. Okay. So if user is logged in, this particular piece of information we need to show, otherwise this. Okay. So how do we know that user is logged in or not? So if user is logged in, we are storing some data into session storage. So that data we need to read. Okay. So again, to read the local storage data, because this application is a role-based application. So in every component, almost every component, we are going to need the role. Based on the role, we are going to do some things. So instead of reading the role in every component, what we can do, we can read the logged in data into our user service. That is the ideal way. In normal working in the project also, we store the logged in data into service, not in our respective component. So here I will create a normal variable logged user data colon. What type of data I'm going to get? If you see the login response, while registration, we passed only these things. Where is registration? Only some fields we have passed, but in login, we are getting so much of field, right? So we are getting whole object. So many extra properties are also there. So let's create interface for that. So I can use a online tool to convert it. So convert JSON to TS. So 2 or 3 sites are there which allows us to convert it into JSON.ts. Transform is also there. Again, TypeScript, some file is there. So if you provide a JSON over here, it will convert into a TypeScript object. Okay. Now let's copy it. We will go to our model.ts, and here we will create export interface. This is user model. Okay, interface it. So I user model. Okay. Now in user service, data type is this. Okay, let's add the import. Let's add a question mark because we are not going to initialize it. Now in constructor, we need to read the local storage data. So constant log data is equal to session storage dot get item. What's the key where we have stored the data? Let's check the login registration. Okay, so our key name is RFQ user. So this only we need to read it. So whenever you are reading the data from the local storage, session storage, always add a null check. So if log data not equal to null means we have the data in our session storage. Then this, while storing the data, we convert it into the string. Again, we need to convert it back to the object format, and that we are going to store into this variable. So this dot JSON dot parse method. Okay, and this variable you will pass it over here. Let's add a debugger and let's check this code. And this service we need to inject into our home component, that is app component. So when the app component get initialized, our constructor will get called. So what's that service? User service inject. What we need to inject? User service. Fine. Now in constructor, on the page load, we need to store the data also, logged in data, because in user service, we know that we got the data, or instead of creating a variable over here, directly we can use the user service also. So let me just show you user service over here. We will show the logged in username, user service dot logged in user data dot. See, everything is coming properly. Okay, now it will break, but let me show you how does it break. So if you check the cons, okay, it is not breaking anyway. Okay, so see, logged in data, it is coming over here, and why logout button? Okay, it is ul and li, and for this we need that JavaScript. So instead of it now, I will just use a normal anchor tag with logout button. But it will be log off. Okay, but now either this particular li will be visible or this two li. So how do we know like user is logged in or not? So that check we can add it like this. If this variable is not, what do we say, not undefined, means we have got the user is logged in. So we will use @if. So by default, this variable will be undefined. So equal to undefined check we will add. If this variable is undefined, we have to show the login and the registration button, and else to this else, we will show this li where we have logged in username and the logout button. UI got broke now. What we need, let's copy the same logout. Why it is coming down? Okay, so this is one li. Let's copy one more li. Let's remove from over here. Yeah, okay. So see, currently in the session storage, we have the data, right? If I remove it, clear it, and if I reload, so now you can see again register and the login button is there. Okay. So if the local storage has that data, you can see the username and the button was coming. And if it is not there, so we can see register and the login button is coming. So these are all things you need to do when it comes to login and the registration part. Okay, just a minute. Fine. So basic implementation is done. Now one scenario is there which might break whatever we have did, the login and everything. So one scenario will be there which will break. So our application is website kind of thing. So when we land, our app component is loaded over here. Okay. Right now user is not logged in. Let's log in now. So we navigated to a different component. Fine. Let's log in. And we will pass the password. Just pay attention. So register and the login button is there because we are not logged in. But if I log in now, see, in session storage, we got the detail. User logged in, but still this is not changed. Why? Because we have written that code to, what do we say, to read the local storage data and put it into that variable on the constructor. So when we land our application for the first time, this constructor got executed and this piece of code executed. But after login, there is no way that this code is not going to execute again, right? Because navbar app component was already loaded. So here we need the subject, because we need to again read this piece of code data. So for that, we will create a subject. So once you log in, you will emit a subject, and in your or you know that after login, you are going to do it over here, right? So what you can do, instead of subject also, you can move this piece of code into different function. Set logged user, and this you will put it over here. This function you will call on the page load also. And once user is successfully logged in, there also you need to call this function so that local storage data is again read properly. So over here, before navigating back, we will read the data over here. This should solve our problem. This dot user service. Okay, let's save and check if we have solved our problem or not. Let's log off. Oh, we didn't complete the log off. Okay. So let's quickly write that out, or let's first complete the ongoing thing. Clear, reload. So by default, we got the login and the register. Now, if I click on login, if I log in with this same username 112233, on click of login, so now you can see that thing got worked perfectly. Or the same thing we could have done it with the subject also. We could have created a subject. In login, we might have emitted that. In constructor, we might have subscribe, and inside subscribe, we might have written this function. But same thing we have achieved by just calling this function again. Okay. Now the remaining thing is just the login log off thing. So where we have the log off. So on click of log off, click on log off. This what we need to do. First, we need to remove that local variable also. Means again that variable we need to set it as undefined. This dot user service dot logged user data is equal to, I need to make it undefined. Because if user is logging off, we don't need this variable to have that data. And then we need to remove the local station storage data. Dot remove item, our key, RFQ user. And again, we need to navigate back to the login page. Oh, sorry, we are already in the login page. So that's it. Let's save and check if we are able to log off. On click of log off, just pay attention to the session storage also. See, session storage data got removed, and here also again we are able to see register and the login. So these are the all thing you need to do whenever we start login. Again, like register, reset, two more modules are there. But you see, so many things we have to do. I have taken around 1 hour because I'm no more than 1 hour, but I'm explaining. That's why I have taken this much time. But for you, it should be max 30 minutes for implementing whatever we have did. Because when I'm explaining, obviously it is going to need time. But if you are just writing, 30 minutes is very, means 10 minutes or 15 minutes should be there. That should be your speed. But at least 30 minutes, you are okay. But try to have this speed like in at least 10 to 15 minutes, you should be able to complete. If the UI is ready, whatever the code we have written, right? So that should be your speed. Okay. Now we need to jump to the next section. I will pause the recording. This first two module, that is login and the creation of the user, means registration, this part we are done. So we are able to log in as a vendor, as a customer also, we are able to register also, and then we are able to log in also. Now the next part is in customer login, we have to implement, we have to start with the RFQ creation. That is, he will create the quotation. Fine. So where is the UI? So this is the UI what we are going to use for create RFQ. So in the project, we have created that component, that is create RFQ. So here we need that UI. So let's go to our RFQ. So this is the row. Let me just copy it. This row we have to put it inside our HTML. Let's save. Let's log in with one of the So I have created particular some customer and some vendors. Fine. So let's log in with my user. This is the user and this is the password which I have to use. Login. Fine. So we are logged in with the particular customer. Now, if it's a customer login, we have to show that create RFQ page, right? So in the link where we have the navbar, so we have to add the based on the role check. If the logged in role is customer, we have to show that create RFQ page because customer only can create the RFQ. So he should only see that link. Fine. So just like this, we will have one more li and here we will say create new create RFQ. Now, so this will be dynamic, means condition based, this li will generate. So the logged in data we are going to get in this variable, correct? So we can use this logged in data at the rate if. So we will use at the rate if condition at the rate if. So condition will be this dot role. If the role is customer, then only we need to showcase this link. So let's copy this and put it over here. Why it is saying, okay, question mark we need to add. Fine. So if the role is customer, then only we need to showcase this li. Fine. Now, on click of this href means we have to navigate also. So we have to make use of router link. So if you are going to use router link, we need to import it. That we have already done. Fine. So over here, router link we will use and where we will navigate. So if we see the create RFQ, this is the route where we have to navigate. So let's copy. Let's put it over here. Let's just save and test if we are able to navigate. Fine. So this icon is coming over here. If I click, see, we are able to navigate. Now over here, okay, so some CSS I think we need. Let's get that CSS also. Was the CSS specific? RFQ card. Oh my God, so many CSS. Content box only I need, I think. Let's copy. Create RFQ, CSS, save. Fine. So we got the UI as it is. Fine. This created RFQ, we don't need this over here because to show the list of created RFQ, we have a different component. So let's remove that. So if we go to the HTML, somewhere it will be there. Yes. So this is that. Let's remove it. Fine. So this is in create RFQ component. We just have a form and just a basic information. So normally when we work on an application where website kind of structure or even admin kind of application is there and customers, if it is a product, in every page, we will have some display information like that. Like what's this page about? They, as a product owner, they want to educate the client also. So they use this area to showcase what this page is going to do, what you can do, what not. Some information they will put it over here. Just like that, I have created a structure. Fine. Now, so this is the page. Let's see the API. So if we see the API, create RFQ. So if you see the object, what we need to pass, RFQ ID, this is primary key. Manufacturer ID. Why do we have manufacturer ID? Okay, so manufacturer ID we will consider as a customer ID. So logged in, because initially I thought it when I created the database, I had some different idea in my mind, but then that idea might be very difficult to process for everyone. So then I changed it to customer and vendor. But previously it was something else. Fine. So that's why make sure in manufacturer ID means nothing but customer ID. Fine. So whatever the logged in user is there, that ID you need to pass it over here. The remaining fields are pretty same forward. So in that created date, you don't need to send. Required date means this quotation is valid by what date. So that date will be there. Fine. So this is the object. Now we will be using reactive form over here. So let me just close everything. Let's open properly. This is the .ts and this is the HTML. Fine. So now in .ts, we have to create the reactive form. Now in the login component, we have make use of the template form. So the purpose of again, like if you are following this video and if you are trying this project, make sure in every component you are using everything. Somewhere we are using template form, somewhere reactive form, somewhere you do this kind of validation, somewhere do that kind of validation. So when you work on a project, try to use as much as concept you are going to use. So two things will happen. You will have the basic knowledge of that project creation also, and you will have the practice of all the topics also. Fine. Now, So if you are going to use the reactive form, we need to import reactive form module. This we have done. Then, so what's that? RFQ form colon data type will be form group is equal to new. We have to initialize it form group like this. Sorry, empty object we need to pass. So this is how we created a form. Then I will need a method that will be create form. Basically, it should be initialized, but create also makes the same sense. So this dot RFQ form is equal to new form group. Either you can use form group or you can use that form builder service also. Both things are same. Not no much difference is there. Okay, that is one of the intro question. Fine. So these are nothing but this is the object what I need to send to the API. Fine. So what we need to do, these are nothing but controls name what I have to use. So I'm just copy pasting this and this will go over here and this we need to remove and over here you need colon. This is new form control. Sorry. Now this is RFQ ID, which is primary key. So whenever we have to create new record, primary key should be sent as a 0. Fine. Then this manufacturer again, this is like logged in user ID. So we can initialize new. I will initialize with 0, but we will pass the logged in user ID over here. Then this is string. So over here, what we need to do instead of this, we will initialize wherever we have the string, we will initialize with empty. Correct? So let's just copy. Now what I can do quickly, I will copy this and I need to replace that with this. Right? And over here, quantity also we need. So let's go with this only. Required due date, empty only I am going, created date. So here you need to pass the current date. So how do we get new date like this? Fine. So we have created our RFQ form. Now this form, whatever the form we have created, this form we need to bind it to the HTML. So let's open HTML side by side. So you can see we have a form tag. So over the form tag, you need to bind form group. Form group name is equal to, you have to provide your form name, that is RFQ form. It will go over here. Then what are the controls you have? There you need to bind form controller name. Form controller name. Form controller name like this equal to some value. So what I can do, I will search this form control and I will replace that with this. So again, just a simple copy paste tool, because see, when you apply for any company and they provide you the machine test, within sometime they will ask you to complete it, or sometime they want to share it and complete it in front of them. So this skill will impress them, that you know how to use VS Code, how good you are with writing, your development speed, everything they can observe. Correct. So these are very small things, but it will increase your development speed. Fine. So this is for RFQ name. So RFQ name will go over here. Then this is for part name, what actually you want to create. These two things are almost same. This is just a unique title you are giving, and this is the actual part name, what you want to modify, what you want to create, either a bottle or a headphone or something, whatever it can be. Correct. Then quantity, how much quantity you need. Then dimension, some things we can specify. If it's a mechanical product, you will have dimension. If it is something else, you can provide whatever the value. Just some things are there. Then this is required end. So required by date will be there. And last one is description. So where is the description? Description. So this will go over here. Fine. So we created form, we binded that form over here. Now on click of save. So I will be using button. So click event. Now, whenever we are working with the reactive formula, instead of going with button, we should go with submit. And instead of writing click event over here, we can make use of ng submit. This is the right way to use reactive form. Why to go with normal button event and click? This is the basic function we have got in reactive form. On save RFQ. Fine. Let's create this function. So over here, fine. Now, so we basic things are done, but we need, since we are using service, So remember we created user service, but now we are going to create RFQ service because RFQ related APIs, mean quotation related API, we should put in a different service. So let's create one more service. Open in a terminal. As I said, it's always good to have different services related to different module. Generate service RFQ, just a name I am giving. Now in RFQ service, I'll be writing the API call which are related to our RFQ. Fine. Let's minimize it. Private HTTP colon HTTP client. Let me just copy paste the basic thing. So again, this we are going to need. So now you see over here also we have to put the URL. Over here also you have to put the URL. This is now repeated thing. So now that's what I said. We can install that environment folder, and this you can move in that constant file. Fine. So again, I have already created 3 or 4 project setup videos, so you can refer that and you can do that. Fine. But just my focus is just to complete the project for now. That's why I'm not taking all those things. Fine. Let's get the post method. So this is the post method we need. I'm just copy pasting the name and everything. Okay. Observable we need. API response. Okay. Now if you see what's the response of this API, 200 means just the user API has got that specific model response. But apart from that all, now we are going to play with the status code 200, 201, 400, 500, whatever. Fine. So here response type will be whatever the model we pass, that same model we are going to get. So, okay, we didn't created the interface now. So let's copy this and let's create interface quickly. This is the site, paste. Let's copy. So RFQ model, the model which we are going to use. So I'm creating interface of that. Now, again, if you see here, we in model folder, we have just created a user folder, user file. So all the model and the classes regarding users, login, registration and everything, we can put it over here. Now we are moving towards the RFQ. So we can create one more file, RFQ model .ts. Now inside this, we can put our interface for the, which is related to our RFQ. Fine. Interface, and this is RFQ model. RFQ, let's go with RFQ. Fine. Now over here in user service, what type of data we are going to return? So same model, whatever you are going to pass, that same model you are going to get in a response also. I will showcase that here also, and here also. Let's add the input. Fine. Instead of register, it will be, let's get the API name also, create RFQ. Let's copy, paste. I'm going little bit fast because we have so many things to cover. Again, because this code I have already explained how do we write API call in the first user service. So I'm saving some time now. Create RFQ. Fine. So this is our API call function into our RFQ service. Now let's close everything. Now in our RFQ, create RFQ page, we need to inject our RFQ service. So RFQ service is equal to inject. What we need to inject? RFQ service. Fine. Then in this function, we need to call the API. So this dot RFQ service dot create RFQ. But this function needs an object, but we don't have object over here. We have a form. So by using this form, we can extract the object. So form object is equal to this dot RFQ form dot value. So this will get you the object what you need to pass to your API. And this you will pass it as a parameter over here. Fine. Dot subscribe result. What will be the data type? The same RFQ model we are going to get. It's not suggesting. Okay, only RFQ it was there. Anyway, let's add the input also. Fine. Now, over here, if the API call is success, this particular subscribe block will execute. If there is any error or 500 for something else error, so you will need catch block. So error, this is the error handling block we are going to need. So if API call is success, this subscribe block will execute. If there is an error, error block will execute. Fine. Let's just show alert message like RFQ created success. Whatever the message you want to show. Fine. Let's just add a debugger since we are creating this for the first time. One more thing. As I said, manufacturer ID. So this is nothing but who is creating this RFQ. So that ID we need to pass it over here, means logged in data. So now where we have the logged in data in user service. So what we can do, user service object we will create, user service. Fine. So now once the form is initialized, after that what we can do, or over here also, instead of assigning it with 0, this dot user service dot logged in user data question mark dot what we need, user ID, logged in user ID means customer ID. Fine. Sorry, user ID. Okay. Now this function we need to call on the page load, means in constructor we need to call it. Otherwise form won't be initialized, correct? Because at the top we are just declaring the form. We are not initializing it. In the function we are initializing it. So this function we will call it over here. Fine. Now let's save and check if we have any error or no. Then we can test our application. Let's open the console and let's check for error. No error is there, means everything is good. Fine. Now let's save all the file one more time. Now, so let's say I want to create a bottle. That's the example we discussed, correct? So we need water bottle printed name. This is my unique title of my RFQ. And here, let's say part name is water bottle. In actual application, there might be so many things. You will have categories, everything. You will be able to upload the image also, like what you need, what kind of bottle you need, everything. Because so many different application, as I have explained, every application will have so many fields. When you create an RFQ, at least that form will have 20 to 30 fields, right? But we are trying to create a basic application which will cover the whole flow. So I have kept it to the limited thing. Fine. Quantity. Let's say I need 100 bottles of that. Dimension, let's say height and width something 24 into something. I'm just providing. Okay. This is the dimension I need. Now here we have to specify the proper description, like what I need in that particular bottle. I need bottles with my company name on it, and something company name, we will provide the details. Fine. Now that's not our concern. We just need to test our API. Now, if we click on submit, create RFQ, you see we got the debugger, means function got called. Now, if you see in RFQ value, you can see whatever the data we filled into the form that we have got. Correct? Why didn't we get the date? Oh, we didn't select the date. API will break. See, API got break 400. If you click over here, required date. We didn't send the date, right? So let's select the date. I need it by, let's say, next month, some date. Fine. Now let's try it again. So continue. Still we got it. Why? Invalid column RFQ name. So this is API issue. Okay. Let me check, because as I said, I didn't test the API properly. Let me test. Let's try now. I have checked API. On click of create. Continue. Still we are getting error. Okay. Now some different error 500. Let me test the API first. I thought that fixing that error will solve, but again, one more error is there. Let me check it. So foreign key issue was there, so I have resolved it. Let's try it one more time. On click of create RFQ, continue. So now you can see we got the status RFQ created success. Now let's check the get API if RFQ is created or not. On click of try it out, execute. You see, we have created an RFQ. RFQ ID, we are getting for manufacturer ID, username who has created it. Currently, so we have created the RFQ. Now we need to show whatever the RFQ created in another component that will be my RFQ. So whatever the RFQ created by the logged in customer, we need to showcase it also somewhere. So we have created one component that is RFQ list. So let's create a route for this, an app route. Let's copy paste. The name will be my RFQs. RFQs created by me, means the logged in customer ID. So RFQ list component. Fine. Now in the app component also we need to add it in the link. So if the logged in customer is this, again we will need one more link. That will be my RFQ. Fine. Here the route will be this. Fine. So if the logged in user is having the customer role, two additional links will be visible to him. Fine. Let's close this. Let's close this. Now in the RFQ, the work is done over here. Now in the RFQ list. So here we need to showcase what are the RFQs created by me. So let's get that code which we have removed. Where it was. Yes. So this is that page. Let's copy. Let's paste it over here. UI might break because we might need CSS RFQ list. Let's see what CSS we have related to RFQ card. Okay. Let's get all the CSS. So from over here till over here, let's copy. Let's paste it over here. Let's see if the HTML is coming properly. My RFQ. Yeah. So see, HTML is coming properly. Now, instead of created RFQ, it will be my RFQs. Just the label change I have to do. My RFQs. Fine. So this is the place where we are going to show the RFQs created by the logged in customer. Fine. Now, so this is the API which we have to integrate. Correct. So this API, again, we will need the function. No, sorry, not this API. This API doesn't have any parameter, right? This API is responsible to show all the RFQs created by all the customer. One more API might be there. That is get RFQ by user ID. Fine. So what was our user ID? The logged in user ID. What was it? This 5681. Fine. So now we have to pass the logged in user ID, means customer ID, to this API. Then we will get the RFQs created by that particular user. So this API call we need to create. So let's go to service, as we are writing all the API call into our service only. Fine. So get RFQ created by user. Fine. So the return this dot http dot get API. Again, this dot API URL will be there, plus this is the method name. Fine. Now here, this is static. We need to make it dynamic. Whatever the logged in user ID that we need to pass. Now, so ID number, a parameter will be there. And whatever the ID we will get, that we have to pass it over here. So plus ID. So our URL will be dynamic now. Fine. So this function we have created. Now you see the create RFQ object is something else. Over here, we don't have username or something. But if you see the response of the get RFQ by user ID, here we have the username. So in response, in the list, there is some different response. So this object interface also we need to create. So let's copy. It's almost same, but some fields are different. In when we work on an actual real project now, the create object can be something else, and in the list you might get some minimum field or maximum field also. What you send to save, apart from that also some new fields will get. This happens in the real project. Fine. In RFQ model, let's create the RFQ list interface. So this is interface. Whenever you are creating class or interface for storing the data in get API call, always go for the interface. You don't need class for that. But if that object you are going to bind it to a variable which you are going to use in template or the reactive, there you should go for the class. Fine. RFQ, it will be specific my RFQ list. Fine. Let's remove this equal to sign. Now over here, from our service, what kind of data we are going to return? So colon observable. What kind of data? RFQ model array I'm going to return. Let's add the import also. And in after get also we need to specify the data type like this. Okay. Now this function we have to consume in our RFQ list. Now here I'm going to explain one topic, that is uh, async pipe. So if you know the Angular, you might know that in Angular, pipe is the easiest topic. But inside that also, we have an important question, that is async pipe. And it is very difficult to explain also. Other pipe basic questions are very easy. Fine. Now in this RFQ list component, we have to iterate this call for, right? Whatever the RFQ data we get. So what we normally do, we integrate service, we subscribe, and we put it into a variable, and that variable we bind it into the HTML. But instead of doing that, we can create an observable. How? Let's see it. So in service, we have a function which is going to return the data, whatever you get from the particular API. So over here, I will need the constructor. First, I need to create the observable data. My RFQ list dollar. So whenever you create a variable in that you are going to store observable type of data, you should add dollar over here. That is just a normal standard practice we follow when we work in an industry. Fine. Is equal to, sorry, colon observable. What type of observable data? My RFQ list. Why it is not coming? My RFQ list, and specifically array of data we are going to store. New observable, we just need to initialize it like this. So we have created observable. Now in constructor, what I will do, this dot myRFQ list is equal to, oh, we need the service object also. So RFQ service inject, what we have to inject? My RFQ service. So sorry, I'm getting forget. Fine. Now over here to this observable, what I will pass, this dot RFQ service dot this function. Okay. Now in this function, we need no to this function, we need to pass the logged in user ID. So again, where do we have stored the logged in user ID? So in user service. So user service, we need to inject our user service. So over here, this dot user service dot logged user data question mark dot user ID. So logged in customer ID we are passing. Why it is saying error? Undefined, it is not assignable to this. Let's add a null check. So if this dot is there, then we will use this. Now we don't see, now it is not giving error because we have properly checking like if logged in user data is there or not. Fine. Now here you can see we have created an observable, and in that observable we are going to store whatever the data we get from the API call. Observable type of data, obviously we are going to get. See the response, observable type of data. Now we are going to import a sync pipe. Sorry, a sync pipe. Now in HTML, instead of creating a variable subscribing, we can directly subscribe to this observable into our HTML. So this is the row we need, this is the column we need to iterate. So for loop. Now over here, I will be using my observable name, that is my RFQ list dollar. So this I will use it over here instead of item, but with async pipe. Fine. Now this call for will be inside our for loop. Now here we have to specify the name. So here item, sorry. dot RFQ title. Oh, why RFQ name is not coming in my Gate API? RFQ name is coming, no? Okay, this is create. RFQ name is not coming. I think I forgot to add that. Okay, let's showcase the part name. Fine. So part name I will showcase over here. Then same thing again, I will repeat it over because in the Gate API currently I have not sent the RFQ name, but by the time you will use this API, you will get the RFQ name also over here. Fine. Then quantity. Let me just copy paste first. Then I will change the things. And this is description. So quantity, dimension. Dimension also I'm not sending. So let's remove it. Required by date. And here we need to add the date pipe because you will get time and everything, right? So we just need to show the date. So we will use date pipe also. Fine. Now in HTML, I can make use of the date pipe. So colon, date, and I can pass the param formatting dd hyphen mmm hyphen yy. Fine. And here is the description. Fine. Let's save and check. Now in HTML, directly you can see that RFQ data is coming. Let's try to create one more RFQ. Now, first RFQ we have created for the bottles. Second thing, let's say I want to build a warehouse. Okay, so new warehouse. As I said, we are creating an application where everyone can create the quotation, correct? So I can request for a bottle also. I need some warehouse development, so I can raise a quotation for that also. The people who build the warehouse, they will only pay. They will only provide the codes for the created RFQ, correct? Let's say warehouse construction. Quantity 1, quantity, dimension. Let's put it empty, not required. I will be needing by April 15. I need to build a warehouse. Some information we have to specify. Dimensions 2000 square feet, something, right? Now, if I click on create RFQ, RFQ created is success. And if I go to my RFQ, see, first one was water bottle and second one is for warehouse construction. So whatever the RFQs I am creating that are visible in my login. Okay, let's try to log out now. Log off. So once we do the log off, see, still I am over in the same page. I logged off, but still I'm able to see the MyRFQ page and everything because the menus got destroyed. So now when you do the log off, you have to navigate back to the home page because now we have implemented the login functionality. Na? So in .ts, once we remove the login data, we need to navigate back to the home page also. So router service, we need to inject. So inject. These are the small scenarios which might break. So this is how we do the testing properly so that you won't get many defects. So this dot router dot navigate by URL, where we have to navigate. So slash home page. Let's try it one more time. So now let's try to log in with Umesh, another customer I have created. So login. If I log in with Umesh, and what's the password? 223344. Now this is the first time I'm logging with this Umesh. And now if I go to the MyRFQ, you can see data is not there because Umesh has not created. Again, if the data is not there, you can show something like no RFQ found and something like that. Let's try to create one RFQ. Let's say Umesh need what it can be. Let's say he want Windows to be created. Something Windows window creation. Same name I'm putting it over here. Quantity 5 windows I need. Dimension, let's say 200 into 400 something. I need it by 12 March. I need windows with above dimension for my home building. Something information we are providing. On click of create RFQ, created RFQ success. If I go over here, you can see we are logged in with Umesh. Umesh has only created one RFQ. So in my RFQ page, only this is coming. Now let's try that log off. If I click on log off, see now we are moving back to the home page. We don't have that create RFQ on my RFQ page. So customer is able to create the RFQ and he is able to say it also. Again, edit and the delete part will be there, but that is just a normal API call and that. Now, other part, vendors will be able to see all the RFQs created by all the quotations created by all the customer in this page RFQ. So over here, if we navigate, we didn't add the navigation over here. We need to show all the RFQs created. Fine. Let's start with that now. So now in the website, if we navigate to the RFQs, we have to show all the RFQs created by all the various customer. And the UI we will be using this. Fine. So on click of this, we should navigate to another component. So you see, this was the component which we decided that we will be using this component on the website part. So let's create a route for this app route.ts. Let's copy paste RFQs. Fine. And in our app component, we have to add the navigation also. Fine. So over here, RFQ page is there. So instead of route href, we have to use router link, and the route name which we have created, we have to pass it over here. So this RFQ will go over here. Let's just save and check if we are able to navigate. Fine. So we are able to navigate. Now in this component, we need the UI. So the UI, what's the file? File is web list. So let's copy the web list HTML. Web list. Let's copy. Let's paste it into HTML. CSS might be needed, but let's save and check. Yeah. Okay. So CSS is needed. So this you can see background color is not coming. Apart from that, card is coming proper. So let's see what was the class we need. Filter section. So let's get the CSS for the filter section. Okay, this much only. Let's copy. And this should go into our CSS file. Save. Right. So now you can see image our UI is coming proper. Now on this page, on the page load, we need to integrate this API. So get RFQs. So this API is responsible to get all the RFQs, all the quotation created by all the customer. Fine. So let's create API call function into our service. So RFQ service. Again, I will be copy pasting the same thing because just the URL change will be there. Over here also and over here also. We don't need parameters, so let's get rid of it. Get RFQ. Now in our service, we have created function which is responsible to get all the RFQ. Now this we have to call into our component on the page load. So when we say on the page load, we have to implement our lifecycle event that is on in it. Fine. Now, so once you do that, you have to implement an on init function also. We need to integrate our RFQ service, RFQ service colon, sorry, inject what we need to inject our RFQ service. Then we will create one more function also. Either we can write the API call into our nginx also, but it's better to have a separate function because as we say, solid principle and what other high level programming we said, right? Each function should have a designated functionality. So low get all RFQs. This dot RFQ service dot get RFQs. This is the function dot subscribe round bracket result colon any. Fine. Oh, I think we copy pasted. This function should not have any parameters. So let's remove this unnecessary thing. Now, what kind of data we are going to get? So this my RFQ list only. So that we have already done it over here. So whatever the data we are going to get, that we need to store into a variable. So RFQ list colon, the data type is this only, my RFQ list. Let's add the import of this. Square bracket is equal to empty. Whatever the data we get, that we will store it over here. Yes, fine. And this function we need to execute on the page load, means ng on init function. So it will invoke. Fine. Now in this variable we are going to get the data. So let's use it over here. So this column we have to iterate. So at the rate for variable over here, and inside that we need to put our column. This one. Let's remove the static thing. Now over here we need the RFQ name, item dot. Oh, so sorry, RFQ name is not coming, but anyway, for now, part name we will use. Manufacturer, who is the manufacturer? So part name dot, where username is nothing but the manufacturer, okay? Then part name, again, we can repeat the same thing over here, and the quantity, and required by that date. And we can add a date pipe. So hyphen date. Again, if we are going to use the date pipe, we need to import it. That's the rule. We got it from all the standalone thing, right? So whatever you are going to use, you need to import it. Date. Then we can pass the format also. dd hyphen mm hyphen y 4 times y means complete year I want to showcase. Let's save. Let's check it. So you can see in the API, I think we have 3 RFQs created. So all 3 RFQs are available. Again, like we can just modify the little bit UI because it's in one row. At least we should show 4 or so here what we are doing, call 4, we are using it for this, right? So call 3 and instead of call 8, 9 will be there. Instead of call 6, we can go with 4. Let's save MB4 instead of 2. Let's save. Fine. So at least you can see over here we have the filter, and at least in one row now we will have 3 parts available. Again, UI like RFQ name, instead of showing this label, you can have that. Then your UI will come proper because it's coming in 2 lines. See, so that's why UI is breaking. What else we can do instead of this? Oh, well, we already have S6. Let's make it S6. Instead of RFQ, let's get RFQ colon. Still it is behaving because of this part name. So see, part name is coming into the next line now. It's breaking. So for that, where is the part name? We can have a small tag over here. And inside that, we will showcase the part name. Save. Still it is same. Let's remove the part name because already we are showing it part name at the top. Let's save. Fine. So now you can see card alignment is coming proper. Fine. So now again, if you see the API, this API is responsible to get all the RFQs created by all the customer. Now, if you see the UI, we have open button. So now on click of open, we should navigate to another page where we can show the RFQ particular detail. Means if you want to see all the detail, currently we don't have much field, what we have limited field. But in actual application, we can have so many fields that we cannot show it into the card. So on click of open, he will actually see all the remaining fields. So for that, you will use this API, get RFQ by ID. Here you need to pass the RFQ ID and it will provide you all the RFQ detail. And the UI which you are going to use will be this. But for that, you have to create a route with parameter because on click of it, you will be redirecting to another page. So you have to navigate with the parameter. So route will also be a parameter one. That part I'm not covering. That's why I have explained. Now, so customer is able to create the RFQ. That RFQ is available in the website. Now, if I log in as a vendor, I should be able to provide the code to the RFQ I want to for the quotation I want to bid. Correct. So for that, one more API should be there. So here from here we are going to start the quote API. So here you can see create quote API. So over here, see what the details we need. Quote ID. This is nothing but primary key. RFQ ID means whatever the record you are clicking. Let's say I click on it. So this RFQ ID we need to pass. Then supplier ID. Supplier ID means nothing but vendor ID. Fine. As I said, like some nomenclature is changed because I thought of some other project and then I converted it to something else. So vendor ID or supplier ID, nothing but same. So logged in vendor ID, you have to pass it over here. And then quoted price, like this quotation, whatever the part or whatever the requirement, by what price you are going to make. So that price we have to specify, by when you can deliver it, and an additional note, and created it by default date. So on click of it, we will have a form. I think I didn't created that form. Let me try this. Yeah, I didn't selected that. I didn't created that UI. But on click of open, what we will do, or instead of open, it will be code, right? We will open a model pop-up, and in that model pop-up, we will have this form. Fine. Now we are going to need the model pop-up, correct? So let's go to Bootstrap site. Let's get the model pop-up code. Model. So let's use this model pop-up code. So in the RFQ component only, we will need that model pop-up code. So over here, it will be like that form, create code form will be there. So title will be add your quotes/bids. Quotes or bids. As I said, like this, these are some specific related terminologies. Fine. Now over here in the model body, what we are going to need is price, delivery date, and the additional. So only three things we are going to need. So let's create a quickly form. So dot row dot call 6 label your price. After that, we need text box, class form control. Let's copy paste and date. By what date you can provide? Delivery completion date. That will make more sense. And it will be date. After this row, we will need another row called 12. And we can have a text area where he can provide the additional detail. In actual application, it can be so many things we will have it. Because when vendor has to provide the bid, it has to provide his company profile, what are the other project he has delivered, everything. So many things we have to keep it over here. Fine. So this will be label also we will need. Details. Fine. So we have this. Now over here we will need one more button. Instead of danger, it will be success. And we will call it as send quotes. Fine. Now this model pop-up we have to open on click of this open button. So let's create click event, open quotes model. And we need to pass the RFQ ID. So item is not coming, item dot RFQ ID. This parameter we are going to pass. Fine. Let's create this function. Now on click of this function, we have to open the model pop-up. To open the model pop-up, we can make use of that document.getElementById by ID also, but that is not the right way. We should use view child. Fine. So let's create the view child. @view child round bracket. Here we have to provide the hash property name. Nothing but here we have to, instead of ID, we have to provide hash RFQ quote model. Fine. This is the template variable that we have to pass it over here. Quote model colon element ref. And here we will add, wait, why the error? Is it capital view? I always get confused. Yeah, so it's a capital view. Fine. So we have created view child of that particular model div. Now in case in this function, what when we are calling this function, we are passing the parameter RFQ ID. So that we need to catch it. So RFQ ID colon number. Fine. And whatever the RFQ ID we are going to get, that we need to store into a local into variable current RFQ ID. This you will understand why we are storing it over here, because in separate function we are going to need it. By default, I'm assigning it to 0. Whatever the RFQ ID we are going to get, that we are going to store over here. Fine. Now, here we need to open the model pop-up. So this dot, whenever you are accessing the view child, always have a null check. So if this is there, then we will use this dot RFQ model, sorry, quotes model dot native element dot style dot display is equal to block CSS we have to add. Just like this, we will need one more function to close it also. So close model. We don't need parameter over here. And instead of block, it will be none. And this function we have to call over here to close the model pop-up. And at the bottom also we have close button, right? So there also we need to call it. Let's just save and check if we are able to open and close the model pop-up first. So if I click on open, nothing is happening. How come? Let's save. Let's save. Something is wrong. Let's check what is wrong. What's happening? If I am clicking, do we have input type button or not? No, it's a span only, but why it is not clickable? Let's try to debug. So refuse component.ts. This is our function. Let's add a debugger. On click of open, function is getting called. It's not going inside. It is going inside also. Sorry, spelling mistake is there. See, CSS display spelling mistake is wrong. That's why it is not opening. AY. Fine. Let's try now. Now it should open. See, and on click of this, it is closing. Over here also, it is closing. Fine. So now, but before that, now this button should, once we click on this button, because we are going to bids on this particular quotation, or we are going to add a quotes to this particular quotation. So if user is not logged in, we have to show the error that please log in first. So for that, here in this function, when we are opening, we can add a check. First, we need to implement the user service, because in user service, we have the logged in data, correct? So user service is equal to inject user service. Either you can hide also, if user is not logged in, that code button won't be visible. But sometimes based on the client requirement, no, we have to provide the button, because how user will know, like I have to log in. So from here you can do the codes. So that's why we show that. But once wherever that authenticated need is there, we show that please log in first, like that. So over here we will add a null check if this dot user service dot logged in user data, if this is undefined, if this is if this logged in user data is not undefined, then we will have this code, or else we will show our alert box with please login message. Login to quotes. Fine. Let's save and check now. So currently user is not logged in. If I click on open, see, please log into quotes. Now let's log in with a vendor. So I have created some vendor. Let's make use of that. So Tata Industry, this is the username, and this is the password I'm using. Not sure if someone removed or not. Yeah. So we are no one removed. Now if I click on over here, you see it is opening because the vendor is logged in now. Now on click of this same code, we have to integrate this API. So let's create a function of this also into service. First in service, we will create the function. Just like create RFQ, we will have it. Add quote and this is the method name. This method name will go over here. Now we are going to pass the object also. Now for this we have to create the object. So I'm not creating class or interface, but you should create. Just to save the time, I'm going directly. So here in service, instead of RFQ, I will make it any, and over here also any. Fine. Now, so in service we have created API call function. Now into our component, again I will be going with the template. So we have to create our object code, object colon any. I'm using any, but you have to create class. Fine. Just to save the time, I'm doing this, but you have to create it. Now estimated delivery date, again I will put it as empty only. Created date, we have to send it as a new date. So new date function. Additional info empty. Fine. So this is the object. Now, now remember we created this variable where on whatever the record you are creating that we are storing. So instead of this variable now, directly what object where we are, which quote I need. So I can use quote object dot RFQ ID over here. So whatever the RFQ card you are clicking, that RFQ ID you are storing into the variable, because this object you are going to ultimately pass to your API, correct? So in this object, RFQ ID we have got. Then logged in user ID also we need. So over here also, quote object dot, what it will be, supplier ID. So this we have to pass this dot user service dot logged user data dot user ID we need to pass. Fine. So in our object, we got RFQ ID and supplier ID, and remaining things we are going to get from the UI. So this object we need to bind to our UI also by using ng model, square bracket, round bracket, ng model. See, whatever the project you are, it is basically CRUD operation. But why I said like at least if you are completing, let's say, uh, if you have completed your basic what do we say, tutorial and everything, at least complete 3 to 4 different projects, because with each project you will have something unique, business flow, by what ways you can do forms and everything, correct? So if we are using ng model, so we need to add forms module, that we forgot, forms module. Fine. Then estimated delivery date we need to add. So over here, let me just copy paste now. Over here also, since we don't have form tag, so name attribute is not mandatory. Additional nodes will go over here. So some things we are hard coding, not hard coding means we are getting it over here, setting it over here. And from that object, some things we are going to get from our form. Now on click of send code, we need to call our API call function. So click on send code. Let's create this function. So this dot RFQ service dot add code, and here we need to pass this dot quote object dot subscribe result colon any. I'm going for any because I didn't created that object. Fine. And error block also you might need. Fine. So once successfully quote is created, we will say alert quote received by customer, right? Something meaningful message we have to show. And whatever the error message we will get, that we will showcase. Let's first add the debugger. I have to explain one case over here. That's why I'm adding a debugger. Fine, let's just save and check. Let's open it. Now, let's say a warehouse construction. I'm the logged in customer is, let's say, Tata Industry, and they work on the warehouse construction. So I will open it. Your price, let's say, whatever the price he said, let's say 50,000, completion date. Again, in actual application, you see over here required by date is 15th of March. So your date should have, all these dates should be disabled. Date should be enabled after this. So in actual application, these many things we have to work. Fine. Some text. Fine. Now on, let's add a debugger also. I need to showcase that. RFQs. over here on click of send code. Now, if you see the object C, quote RFQ ID we also got, supplier ID also got. This is nothing but logged in user ID. Quote also got, and the date also we got. Once I continue, oh, it is getting error 500. Why it is giving us 500? Let's check. Internal error. Okay, I need to debug this. Let me just debug this API. Why we are getting internal error? So in database, I had a foreign key for something else table. So that was the issue. Let's try it again if it works. So if I click on send code, continue. Yeah. So see, now we got the success. Code received by customer. So you see, by this user, we have sent code to this particular quotation. Let's try to again add the same because this customer already have sent code to this particular quotation. Let's try to do the same thing again. We should not send multiple codes, correct? So if I click on send code, continue. So now you see we got error block, and in error, you will get the message. What's the message? A supplier can only submit code for once. So error dot message. So this we have to showcase. So in alert, error dot message. Let's save and check it one more time if we are able to showcase the warning also. Send code. We are getting undefined. Let's pass the correct data. See, a supplier can submit only one code per RFQ. Means this is a backend validation error which we have got. Correct? So now what we did, customer is able to create the quotation. That quotation is available in the website. Other vendors can add codes or bids to that quotation. Now whatever a different vendor will add the quotation to the bid, and that bid now customer can see it. So for that, this was the UI. So this is the UI. Let's say on customer portal, he open a particular RFQ. So he can see what are the quotes received for his created quotation. So this is the last part. For completing the basic code, we are going to do. Fine. So, so this page RFQ list, let's log in with the customer, or let me just add with multiple vendors. Fine. So what I have done, I had created three different vendors. So by three different vendors for this particular warehouse construction RFQ, I have added the RFQ. Now we will log in with this customer. So let's log off, log in. What was the password? 2233. Log in. Fine. So my RFQ. This was the way, what do we say, RFQ which I have created. Now on click of view detail, we have to navigate to this page where I will showcase the RFQ detail also and whatever the codes received. For that, we will need one more component. The component will be, let's say, open RFQ or something. ng generate component open RFQ. Again, this component we can use it in the website also to open the detail mode. So this will be this component. When we are going to navigate to this component, we are going to navigate with the RFQ ID. So this route will be parameterized route. So let's copy paste, comma, RFQ, open RFQ, colon slash ID or slash colon ID. I always get confused like this. And open RFQ component. Fine. Now from my RFQ page, when I click on view detail, I need to navigate to that page. So router link. Okay, we need to import router link. Fine. Then over here, slash our route name, that is open RFQ. After that, we need to pass the ID also. Now ID will be item. Okay, so let's add it in as a property binding because we need to make a dynamic thing. So this plus item dot RFQ ID. Let's save and check if we are able to navigate properly. So now if I click on this water bottle, if I click, see, we are able to navigate with 4. If I navigate with this, 5. Now over here we need this UI, correct? So what's this? Codes. So let's copy the UI, container, copy, open RFQ, let's save. Okay, so UI is coming proper, but something is missing. Let's get some CSS also. What's this? Okay, where is the CSS? Let's copy, put it into our CSS file. Fine. So now details are coming proper. So here, two things we need to do. In URL, we are getting the RFQ ID. So two API we need to call. First, to get the RFQ details. So that is get RFQ, get RFQ by ID. If we pass 5 over here, we will get that particular RFQ detail. See, so whatever the information we get, that we will bind it over here. So let's do it quickly. So this is the function. So in our service, we will need two functions. This is the first function. Let me just copy paste. Again, I'm going with any. Okay, no, we have the RFQ model, right? So this model is there. Not an array, a single response we are going to get. Fine. Now this ID we need to make it dynamic. So let's add a parameter. Whatever the ID we will get, that we will pass as a parameter. So instead of hard code, plus ID. Just like this function, we will need one more function to load codes received, I mean this table data. So that is so that will be, where is that? Yeah, so get all codes by RFQ. So this function we need to call. So if you see 5U, that's the current RFQ. So for 5U, we have this got 3 codes. So this function we need to create. So 2 API call we need to do, and whatever the data we get, that we will just display. Fine. So get all codes by RFQ ID, and this will go over here. Fine. So two functions we have created. Now in this component, we on the page load, we are going to first, we need to read the what URL, what ID we have. So that we have, for that, we need to create an object of activated route. Fine. So let's create constructor. Now in constructor, I will use private activated route colon activated route. Fine. Now over here, this dot activated route dot params, and we can subscribe to the params. Result colon any. What's the parameter name? ID only, no? Let's say ID only. Now we will create one more variable, current RFQ ID number is equal to 0. Whatever the ID we will get, that we will store it over here. This dot current RFQ ID is equal to res dot ID. Fine. Now we will need two functions. So for RFQ ID, we need to, what do we say? RFQ ID, we need to, RFQ service, we need to inject. RFQ service is equal to inject. And we are going to need the logged in service ID, logged in user ID also. So for that, user service also. Inject user service. Fine. Now just two API call function. Get RFQ details, this dot RFQ service. What's the name? RFQ service only, no? And function name will be dot get RFQ by ID. And here we need to pass this variable, because in this variable we are going to store the RFQ current open RFQ ID. Subscribe. Now we will need one variable that we will use to display the information. So RFQ details colon RFQ. What was it? Okay, small one only is equal to mu. Why it is giving like this? Okay, so I think RFQ was object. Let's go with any. I don't want to again write. Fine. So whatever the detail we get from this API, that we will store into this RFQ detail. Just like this, one more function will be there to load all the quotes we received for that particular RFQ. Get quotes. Get all quotes received by RFQ ID. Here also we need to send the RFQ ID. Fine. Just like this, we will need one more variable. Quote list. It's going to be array of objects, so that's why I'm initializing with empty array. Fine. Quote list. And these two functions we need to call on the page load, or basically once we read the data, then only we need to call. So in this function we should call, this is the right place. Fine. Then this dot get quotes. Why it is giving error over here? Okay, let's add it any over here. So once this component load, we will have two API call. Let's just test it. So now you can see on the page load we have got RFQ also, and the quote received. Why it is empty? Oh, so see, method name we copy pasted. RFQ ID URL is not correct because we copy pasted that function. So here ID we need to remove. Let's save. Now we should get the proper data. Still, what's this mistake we are doing? This is the actual URL over here, and what's our URL? Somewhere it is wrong. Okay, RFQ ID is the parameter name. Let's save. Yes, so see, for this particular RFQ we have received 4 codes. Now we just have to display the data. We got the data. Now just we want to display it, right? So let's get rid of this now. We don't need it. We open RFQ. So this is the RFQ detail, right? So over here our RFQ name. So the property name is RFQ detail. But why we are not getting the, this is what interface. Okay, that's why I was not able to create. Anyway, so in this variable we got all the data. So let's display it. Dot, let me just copy paste this. And then it is RFQ name. What are the field we have? Then part name, quantity, dimension, required by date, and the description. Fine. So these are RFQ detail. Which RFQ I'm opening? Then here we have to showcase the quotes received. So over here, at the rate for loop. So quote we are going to store over here, quote list. So let's use it over here. Now over here, tr should go inside over here. Now if you see the response, UID is 5. See, if you check the response, this is our main RFQ data. Then quotes we are getting, right? And manufacturer, sorry, supplier means who have provided the code. So in supplier dot username. So over here, this is nothing but our supplier means who has vendor item dot supplier dot user name. What's the quote he has sent? Over here, item dot, always copy paste the property name over here. Quote price, by when he is going to deliver it. So that data and the details, whatever he has sent. Estimated delivery date. Additional notes. File save all. Let's try now. So see, Tata Industries has provided for 50,000, 60,000 and Pune Corporation. Then let's open another one. If I open this one, for this RFQ we haven't received. So see, it's empty. Again, we can show that empty length. This advanced thing we are going to cover in another video. But for whatever the quotes, for whatever the quotation I have received the bid, that bids are available over here. Now on click of award contract, we need to integrate one more API, like to which vendor I'm providing this contract. So this simple API I have to integrate. So see, this is just a simple, again, like same thing what we did over here. Now in case of model pop-up, we open and provided that. Same thing you need to do. On click of award code, award contract, you are just deciding like for this particular customer, for this particular vendor, I'm giving this particular quotation to make. Fine. So it's on click of it, just it's a normal post API call you have to do. So that's it. I know it's very long video. Again, I have also done this in 3 instances. It takes time if it's a multiple project. I hope these videos are helpful to you. These are very live case, live project examples. My friends or me have worked on some of it. I'm just creating those projects in a simple, understandable way that everyone will be able to implement it. These are the project which you can add in your CV also, because these are real-time applications. No one will question this also, because the way you explain, it is obviously it's a real project. Fine. Again, like if you are new, please do like and subscribe my channel. You can join to description link will be there for WhatsApp group. You can join that also. That's it. Thank you guys.